Okay, so we'll get to that. I would want essentially all of you to set up an account, and then for those of you who are on the same project, you'll have to connect to that. So if you do a Google search, Visual Studio Team Services, you should see this. It's Agile Git CI. What does CI mean? It's actually given here. Continuous integration. It's again a concept that goes with Agile development. You constantly, any module or piece that you want to add in, it needs to get integrated into the project. So anyways, we should, as I said, I need to ask the full computer students, but I'm almost sure you can just subscribe for a free account, or go to the subscriber portal and use your, you already signed up using a Mix email accounts, right? How many of you have this subscription to Microsoft? Pretty much all of you, I believe, from when you needed to download the software, you had to sign up, right? Liv, is that why you signed up?
Yeah, I think that's Microsoft.
Okay, so go to the subscriber portal and then sign in. So once you have an account, and they constantly keep changing or updating the portal itself, so I'm trying to see where their Visual Studio Team Services. Do you see a Team Services account option? Obviously, I'm affiliated with all these different student accounts or projects. Okay. Let me see what screen you are seeing. Did you select create new account or what?
No, I just signed in.
So after you've signed in, just see if you can get to do a search on Visual Studio Team Services, and since you're already signed in, it might bring you to services. Do you see this screen with you? Okay, with your account. Let me just see if I go to subscriber portal. What do I have? Just says Visual Studio Team Services. Okay. Okay, this is the one, okay, host my projects at, okay, I'm going to have you call this, this is interesting, they've changed this, it used to be different. So you'll have to have one for your project. So what I'm going to do is just one of you should, like in each group, one of you should serve as sort of the designated project creator. You don't necessarily have to have a project leader, but at least a project creator. We have, let's say, 4 projects, and I gave some project numbers. So we'll just use a simple notation. Let's see, what's the simplest? So how many of you are seeing the screen? Okay, so Eric, you cannot log in?
Mine, like I have an Imagine account,
yeah,
and I like just found it to like join or log in or sign in now, and it's never opened something.
Okay. So it doesn't show you the portal. This
Yeah,
one?
I found that.
Yeah.
But then it didn't, like I logged into my Imagine and then I found this. And then it was like join now or log in or something, and I pressed that and I had to log in again, but then it doesn't have that.
Okay. Yeah, it's Akash, are you able to get to this?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. All 3 of you are in?
Yeah, my screen is my blind, so.
Your screen individually, or okay, so it's okay. The issue is I'm trying to see if one member of each group is able to get in, and obviously if all 3 of you are there, one of you we should create the group project, and the others can create individual projects. And this is the first time I'm seeing this option. So if you create host my projects, add something, I don't know if it will allow you to create a second option for something individual. So I would like for one of you to try this out on each group. So Kash, are you here at this? Okay, so maybe you can represent your group. Chris, are you here? Okay, and okay, so Logan, you can represent. Which one? If you proceed past this, or wait. Okay, so I'll have Logan represent your group. Okay, so I don't remember your group numbers. Do you remember, Logan? 3? Okay, what's Eric? Eric 4. So yours is 1 and 2. 2? Okay. Okay, so your group 2. So let's see. Let's try to use a particular format. Group N, and you're going to be the year 2017. So let's try to come up with something. MIS 2017 group, whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll use that. I'm just going to say group N. Git is, does anyone know about Git, or has anyone used Git? It's a version control software. It's open source, and over the last 2-3 years, Microsoft has started including open source software within its .NET environment. Team Foundation version control is Microsoft's own version control software, but Git is used by I think 90% of companies, software development companies. So they've started to incorporate it. So let's go with that. So select Git and then continue. Ultimately, though, each one of you will have to be able to get into Visual Studio Team Services. And why do you think that even if there's only one project, all of you have to be able to work on that? So, so once you have a project, manage work. Let's see. Part of what I'm going to have you do over the next few days before we come to class on Tuesday is to just explore the various options that are there, and then we will. So if you go to manage work, you should be seeing where is my first project. We want to create this. So it's created it as a generic. Let's see if we created my first project. If I go there. Okay. What's that? Yeah, I'm trying to see where the team members. Okay, new project. Okay, new team, new project. So my project name. So I'll call this whatever group. So I can create multiple projects, which is good. So the template I want to use for this, Agile is the generic one. Scrum is the specific version of the Agile methodology. So we'll be using that. Version control, as I said, there are two. We'll go with Git. Then I'm just going to create this project. Okay, so once I am here, I'll add some team members in. Okay, I'll have to create this group. To be able to add members, team members, okay. So Eric, what's your username?
My username is EZ
Okay. So as I keep so you basically it should recognize, and I'll add you. Okay, so it's added you, and maybe Kosh, what's yours?
K Tandem.
K Tandem. So what you need to do is for your group members ask what are so Megan, you said you found your account, right? So,
Well, I did it on the email, but then I'll be doing it.
Okay.
So this is my other email, and let me do it, but it won't let me do it through my
Yeah, so you should be,
Mail, is that why?
what's that?
Those are all the same.
I'm not sure whether that makes a difference. I know that
I couldn't find it with my next and I just did add mail.
it let you in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even after that.
All the Microsoft stuff runs through your mail.
At mail, okay. So let's keep that in mind. If so, essentially instead of mix, use @mail.wvu.edu.
Mine don't work, it's like the personal.
Yeah, it is your personal account. It's not a work. No. Okay, so essentially, for now, create your so Kosh, so that's group 2, group 1. You're fine. Group 2. Are you able to add in any?
When I'm going to create a new team,
Okay.
so where
do you add the members?
what is it?
Okay, so basically, there are isn't there an option where you see team members? Okay, you're at you need to go into team services. Yeah, but if you can create your own, so you probably want to have one person designated as the team maintains the team project. So if Garth is doing it, then so if you want, you can create some. If you create it as auto group, then it will conflict with what he's created. So let's see. So for the group projects, this is what we are using for each of the groups. Actually, from what I'm seeing now, you could host multiple projects inside each of the, I don't know what they call it. Megan, what is the first thing they're calling when you log in? The screen that you saw. Yeah, the Postnet projects at some URL. I think that you are under that. I think you can have potentially multiple projects. So, for example, there's the first project and so on. So, and then you can associate different teams. Again, this is the first time I'm seeing this UI option. They've changed it over the past couple of months. Last time I was here was December or early January. So do you see invite members or something it's called, and that's where you add in. Okay, and then so once you've set that up, then the next thing that you will be working on, maybe we'll wait until Tuesday to do this, but you'll have to, it says manage work. You should be seeing all these things called backlog items. This is, the backlog items are also sometimes called user stories. So we'll be adding in items. So for example, if it was, and one of the things we have to decide on for our group, for our class discussion, are we going with what did we say, the college basketball, or are there any other suggestions? The last semester I was going with two project students registration, and then there was something what was Logan? What was it we were using? Vehicle Okay, vehicle service. This was a project that the Subaru dealer had suggested some time back, so I used that. But so I'm probably not going to go into those two. So vehicle service, I did it with Logan's 353 class, but we did it at 3-layered architecture. Okay. So how many of you are interested in going? The only concern with college basketball would be the workflow. We need a workflow. So with what do you think you see mostly with college basketball applications? When you're looking up the ESPN site, for example, what do you get? Yeah, you get the schedule, roster, scores, but you don't quite have like a workflow. Like, for example, the one that I was showing with recruiters and what was it? Recruiters and applicants. So you have recruiters posting jobs, the applicants applying for jobs, so there's a flow of data. In a college basketball application, you have only one-way informational. So can you think of any workflow in a college basketball application where one group of users does something and it changes something else for another group, or there's some set of tasks that get interrelated? Yeah.
Maybe for students it's different than people who don't go to that college.
So you're saying for...
Like if you're trying to buy tickets, I think
Okay.
it's different.
Okay, so buying tickets to a game, okay, yeah. Trying to think if we can, but wouldn't that be something specific to, so you're saying buying tickets to any college basketball game?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we can think of that. So, okay, so buying tickets, maybe that has a workflow. Okay, so if we are looking at that, one of the backlog items would be before you buy tickets, the first thing you might want to do is search. You might want to search the schedule, or let's call the search schedule. So if I was searching for schedule, and then I could go in here, and if I want status, and so I'd have to fill in the details. And remember, we had talked about business impact or value, and priority is the is how important is it to get it done, and if you designate it as priority 1, it's obviously something you want to get done immediately. Business value is how much value does it add, and we were using the Fibonacci numbers to designate this. So searching for something might be extremely important. You might want to implement it, so I'll put it at 8. Searching, so this is search a particular college's schedule to find a date to buy tickets. And we'll go into, there's also a particular way of writing user stories, but what is the acceptance criteria? When do you know that this search option has been properly designed and developed? It's not visible here. I don't know if I can increase the size. Anyways, what I want to, this is what we'll be setting up based off of our requirements. So before coming to class, I want you to think of various scenarios or requirements that you might have for, since Liv introduced buying tickets, this makes it more of a workflow rather than just informational. So you can think through various use cases or scenarios. They are going to be called user stories, but remember what you did for your project. And I know that 2 of you have changed it, but I'll just pull up one of your projects. So where you had set up different requirements, similar to that, start writing up requirements for the college basketball, write it up, and then we will discuss how we'll put it together. We'll use this example where I'm just setting it up, and you can also, I think, use it as an individual exploration, but then for your group, you should obviously do it together, and then you can assign it. Once you have this set up, I'll try to increase it. So currently it says unassigned, so once you are getting into the team mode, I can then say I'll assign it to some particular member of that group. And then you can keep monitoring what's happening to it. Like, let's see. Okay, so where is my board? Okay, on the board you can then move it into different phases. Let me see if I can just drag and drop. So I might want to get it approved, and so you can see the flow of where it is at any given time. Is it just in the initiation stage? Have you actually, when you say approved, who needs to approve of this? Well, in our scenario, it's the group members, but if you're working on a project for a client, who needs to approve? The user, one of the user representatives is a part of the Scrum team. And unless they approve of it, if you develop something that they don't need, then it's a problem. So once you've approved, then you go ahead, start working on it. Once it's committed, you're basically saying I'm moving it into the code base, and then once it's tested, and then it's done. So anyway, so that's the process we're going to follow for our project as we go along. So the thing I want you to do over the weekend before coming to Tuesday's class, explore these different options that are there, and make sure that all the members of your group are able to access the projects that you created. And then once you have that, just exploring it a little bit, write up a set of user requirements or stories for the college basketball application that you'll work on. Yeah.
So should we do it both on art and college basketball, or just on
For Tuesday, For Tuesday, all I'm asking you is to just explore. You can set up some backlog items just to explore it from whatever, for your project. But when you come to class, also come with just, you don't have to put it up here on STEAM services, but just write it down so that when we discuss it, you can contribute your ideas. Okay. So that's, we'll spend a fair amount of time in this environment, and as I said, I myself have not explored this newer version, which I will, along with what you're doing over the weekend. Okay, so that's one piece. The other piece, as I said, is any questions on that piece? The only way you're going to learn is to again try exploring, doing it, and you will make mistakes, but that's fine. You can always delete projects or options that are not something that you want. Let's come to this Fibonacci numbers by recursion. How many of you figured this out? Okay.
Well, I watched a YouTube video explaining it, so it's not like, I mean, I watched a YouTube video, but it's not, I would have been able to do it myself.
Okay, what is the underlying concept in recursion? Well, can you come and explain it? The thing is, if you can't look at the code and try, then you'll marvel at it. You'll have to step outside of it. How many of you can not reference any code and come and discuss it? Okay. Yeah. One of the things I want you to, the companies like Deloitte, they have said that and even IBM Consulting, they've said that our students, they've hired a lot of industrial engineers, and can you guess what they state as the strength of industrial engineering compared to MIS? They say that we are stronger technically, even in problem solving, but one area that they cite as our students' weakness. Yeah. Not necessarily the logic, just the communication. The industrial engineering courses, a lot of them require students to come up and present, and we don't. So it's not. So logically, our students are stronger, but they are not as comfortable standing up in front and discussing stuff. Okay, so you'll have to explain it as you're going. Lay out the big picture. What's the concept of?
Okay, so recursion, you want to call that method inside that method for as long as it's not returning what you're asking for. So we have the two special cases in the Fibonacci number, just the regular one, no recursion. So you have to set those up. And the first Fibonacci number was 1 or 0. 0. So, second one. If it's 2, it returns 1. But if it's not either of those two, you have to keep calling the method. Sorry, I'm crazy about formatting. So you want to return a Fibonacci number. However, you have to keep calling the method. But instead of initializing like we did in the first one, Fibonacci number 1 and Fibonacci number 2, you can just do sign Fibonacci number by there it is. And those will give you your first and your second term. So when it goes through this, it would give you Fibonacci number 1 and Fibonacci number 2 added together.
That's again, Liv has explained to us two of the pieces. One is with any, let's go back to the simpler case of a loop. What you absolutely need in a loop. If you don't have this in a loop, there's something really bad that ends up happening. What's that in a loop that you want to have? Yeah, you want to avoid an infinite loop, so you need to have what? Not necessarily in general, you want some place for it to stop, right? So the same concept here. You need to know this is going to stop, otherwise it will do what? Endlessly calling itself. So the concept of recursion is calling itself, but knowing that there's a point at which it will stop. And if you don't know that point at which it will stop, then it's a problem. And coming back here, Liv, what's the point? What's that stopping point? What do you know helps you to stop?
When you can actually return the number, when you get the input term's actual result.
Okay. So the issue is, okay, if the input term is 1, you are saying you're going to return 0. If the input term is 2, you'll return 1. So when will you be? When you say return these two, so can we? This is going to work, but is there a way of making it a little more understandable? Like ultimately, we are returning a Fibonacci number, right? So if we just put it as what we have, you're calling it, but so even if we use the same, that's fine. But yeah,
You want me to add another line?
yeah, another line. So just assigning it to the Fibonacci number is basically the sum of what? The sum of the Balaji. What's the Fibonacci number? Sum of the. You have to be louder. Is it the first and the second terms? The Fibonacci number is the sum of what? Not if it's always the first and the second terms. What's the first term? Well, so if we go by what you just said, let me ask somebody else. EJ, if what Balaji said, Fibonacci number is the sum of the seed terms, first two terms, then what's the Fibonacci number always going to be? It's always going to be 1. Is that true? It is true? EJ, can you help us out here?
In order to be, we would want it to be the result and second term.
It's very, very simple. So, yeah, Krista, what's it?
For me, depends the previous two terms.
Previous two terms. So it's any of the previous. So based on what Liv has written here, the input term is whatever the term, like let's say it's the 6th term. So what she is saying here is find the Fibonacci number for this one is indicating it's finding the what? The fifth term, and this is finding the fourth term, right? So, so basically we are using this very simple logic that the nth term is the n minus 1 plus the n minus 2 term. So the previous two numbers, we are adding it up. And how do we get the previous two? And Liv has said that it is, you just call this same method, but just sending in the previous two terms. Do you understand the logic? So basically we are using that very simple principle that the Fibonacci number is the sum of the previous two terms. So how do you find each of the terms? By calling itself. Okay, and what's the stopping point? When do you stop? Yeah, let's Krista, Liv, you can.
When you get to zero.
Thank you. Yeah?
When you get to 0.
When you get to 0 and 1, so essentially, if you reach these two conditions, and else, I'll put this in here, and you can, instead of saying return 0, you could also just set the okay, and the simplest way to see if you can understand what's happening is to set up a test. Okay. Yeah.
Why didn't we change it from the return along with the, like how she originally wrote it,
Right.
return, no, where at the end in the else?
Over here?
The else, and then the equation, and then return Fibonacci number?
Yeah.
But she originally wrote it as the
Just the return.
equation.
It's just easier to understand what's happening if you can, if you know that this sums up to give you the Fibonacci. It was logically exactly the same thing as what we have here. It just makes the understandability a little clearer. But if you're comfortable with just having a return and you understand the logic, that's fine too. Okay. One of the more expensive, like when you're developing systems, what do you think is the most expensive part of developing any system? When you break it down, hardware, what else? Maybe the space you rent, and what else is involved when you look at cost of developing software? Yeah. Runtime. How is when you say runtime, effective runtime? How does it factor into cost?
I don't know, something that runs more efficiently costs more.
Cost less, you mean, if it runs more. But so what is the cost specifically? Trying to figure out if you were to give it in a dollar amount, what would that be? Where will we be paying the money for less effective code? But you're still not identified the biggest cost for any software company. Actually, time. Okay, so who or what is going to take up that money? When you say time.
whether developing your existing cell.
Yeah, how much do you think, Plus Consulting, Logan works for Plus Consulting, how much do you think the average Plus Consulting consultant Plus Consulting charges for an hour?
I would say probably per hour, probably 125.
Yeah, it's around 125, I believe, per hour. How much do you think Deloitte charges?
Probably 300.
Yeah, it's around 300. So if the developer is taking 20 minutes to understand the logic, because we compressed it, it might save us how much in terms of memory space? Something so negligible, now it's so inexpensive, it's not even going to be a cent. But if you take up another extra half hour of the developer's time, you're basically spending, if it's Deloitte, $150. So one of the things that's why I emphasize clarity in writing the program. It's going to be much more cost effective comparing to abbreviating for any hardware or any other types of savings. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you go back to the test, the simplest way of writing this test would be I'll just copy, paste it, or I can even, so let me just do this. I'm going to say instead of find Fibonacci number test, this is essentially find Fibonacci number by recursion test. And what do I need to change here? Instead of using this, I'm going to have to change it to okay. Now, the first thing I want to do is to make sure I can, if you rebuild this solution, the third test should show up. Okay. Run all. I want to make sure that this runs. But if you want to check what's happening, let's say input term is 6. Now I want to stop this at 6, so I put a breakpoint right here. Okay. And if I go in here, right click, debug the selected test. Okay. So it's come and stopped here. Now, what I want to really understand is how recursion works. So I want to go into this recursive test, or find by recursion. I'll go in here and put breakpoints at, this place, and here. Okay, so if I continue on, input term is 6. If I continue further, so it's going to first come down to here and see what happens here. So it's come back into this with an input term of 5. And what's happened next? 4. It's not returning a number until what happens, do you think? Yeah. 1. And why is it come back to 3 now? So you can see it has started up multiple of these stacks. So it's going to keep going until. So if I keep continuing on. So when it came to when it had 5 and 4, what did it have to do? For 5, it had to find 4 and 3, right? And for 4, it has to find 3 and 2, and so on. So it keeps calling itself. So it's going to keep going back, and then it sort of stacks everything up, and then gradually gets the values back from the highest to the lowest level. So that's how it's going to go. So it's going to keep on calling itself, and you can keep tracing it. My suggestion would be, if you want to understand recursion, write it down on paper as to what's happening, and then use putting these breakpoints and debugging to see whether that logic follows through. So if I put the breakpoint here. So you can see it's far more number of times than you would expect, because it started with 5 and started with 6, then broke it down into 5 and 4, and then it goes down the entire branch with 5, 4 and 3, 4 is 3 and 2, so it has to keep accumulating everything. So it's going to do it many more times than you would think. And gradually you can see that this will keep reducing, and the Fibonacci number each time will keep getting accumulated. And can you see the stack is also getting reduced each time it's fully calculated. And when everything is done, it will come back here with the final value. Okay. So this should give you some sense of how recursion works. Part of the reason I wanted you to explore it is it's a different way of thinking, and it's not very intuitive, but it helps with some category of problems, such as what is the main difference between using a loop versus using a recursion? When would you use a recursion over a loop? Finding a Fibonacci number, is it absolutely required that you use recursion? We just showed that we could just go with a simple loop earlier, so it works. But when do you think you would need to use recursion? And when a loop may not work. We said that it's important to know a stopping point, right? You need to know when to stop. Now, I gave you one example last time, finding prerequisites for courses. So let's say 452 has, what are the prerequisites for 452? You have to take 450 and 353. Now, you cannot just say, okay, I'll register for 353 and 450, because you need to also take in some more prerequisites for 353, 352, and 351, and so on. So it might be a long chain. Where does it stop? You don't know. It stops at the point where there are no more prerequisites. Can you do it with a loop? Yeah, only if you know it. So we don't know where it stops, and so when you don't know where it stops, if you use recursion, what do? You stop when there are no more prerequisites. So where the stopping point is unknown, where it is determined only at the point where it actually stops, then you can check to see, well, are there any prerequisites? And if there are no prerequisites, I want to stop calling myself. So that's where recursion comes in. Also, if you have multiple levels of supervisors and you don't quite know when it stops up or down the chain, those kinds of situations, usually in database terms, and we look at modeling class diagrams, whenever something, so when you're setting up, maybe I'll ask you this, if you're modeling a class diagram, think about this. I don't want to give you the solution. How would you model course prerequisites? And for our whichever application, since we are going into college basketball, we will be creating a class diagram. Has anyone looked at a class diagram so far? Yeah. If you want to just get a quick look of a class diagram, you can right-click on the solution and add new project. And the type of project is a modeling project. And we'll just call it some example modeling project or something like that. Okay. And once you have this modeling project, right-click on it, add new item. You can add a class diagram. I'll just leave the name as is. Okay, so inside of this, you can just add a class and give it a name. So for example, I can call it course, add in attributes like course number and so on. So we will be using this when we discuss on Tuesday when we get into discussing our what did we call the college basketball application. Okay. Have you run this class diagrams? No? Okay. In 351. You created the DR models, data models. What about 352?
We discussed them a little bit right at the beginning of 352.
Okay.
Not in depth and not for very long.
Okay. So we will spend some time with this. So there are a lot of tools and environments that we will be working with, like Visual Studio, Team Services, class diagram, MVC. So you'll have to sort of work on this, or if it is hands-on, to get a feel for it. Okay, so let's move from the model to, we only have about 5-6 minutes left. I want to move to the controller and the view. So let's say we want to display. The simplest thing we can do is just display one number at a time, which is just the Fibonacci. So let's say we want to, the user gives an input of the input term, and then we want to display the equivalent Fibonacci number. So there are two things we have to activate. One is the controller, the other is a view associated with that particular method. So let's go into this controller, right-click on the controller folder, okay, add controller, and we'll call this controller, it's a controller for the calculator class, and you can do a lot of pre-built functionality. You can see read-write actions built in, but for now, just so that we understand without generating a lot of extra code, we'll create an empty MVC controller. We'll call this calculator controller. Add this in. Okay, so you can see it says an index is it's like the home page for an MVC application, but we are going to instead create not an index, but we'll call this something like find okay, so this will be our the name of our controller method, and we can say action result is a generic. So if you're seeing something like this, what does it indicate? This is the name of the method. This is saying it's public access. What does this indicate? Yeah. The return type. So action result is a built-in class that's provided by .NET for MVC. A more specific, we're dealing with views. So instead of saying action result, we'll just change this to view result. Okay. And associated with so you have a controller class, and we have a simple method called find Fibonacci, and we want it to display a view. So the easiest way to create a view associated with a controller is if you right-click on, highlight this entire name of the method, right-click on it, and say add view. Okay, so it says if you right-click and add view, it will say view name find Fibonacci. We're going to create an empty one, as I said, for just making it easier to understand, and add it in. And when you add in this view, can you tell me what's happening? It's taking a little while because it did a fair amount of work. So what do you think happened here? Can you see? Views is no longer empty. The folder, what happened under it? It created a folder by what name? By the same name. So calculator controller took the first part. Controller is going to be there as a suffix for every one of the controllers. So it took the first part of the controller and made it the name of the folder under views. Okay, this is a convention that MVC follows. And under that folder, what did it do? It created a file called find Fibonacci, which contains the HTML. Okay, so we have another 3 minutes or so left. So let's just create this HTML for find Fibonacci. You'll have to. So let's see. I'll take this where it says view bag out, and instead I'll just put in what the bare minimum that's required. Okay. We and I'll go into all the details a little more next class. Use this @ symbol which says it is going to be compiled or interpreted. We are going to combine some C# with HTML. So what's the extension of this file name here? It's not just .html, right? It's CS.html, so there is some C# code involved as well. So the using statement, within the using statement, which is what is going to be the C# part, so within that we are saying we are going to go into the form and we are going to do something. So this is a method here, begin form, and within begin form you have to specify like there is IntelliSense here, is that no IntelliSense? Okay, within this there are three things that you have to specify. One is the first thing is the name of the method. What's the name of the method? Find Fibonacci. Okay, so within double quotes, it's find Fibonacci. That's the name of the method in the controller. Okay. The second is the name of the controller itself. What's the name of the controller? It's just calculator. Okay, not calculator controller, but just calculator. Controller is the suffix, so just calculator. And the third is you can specify whether it's going to be, whether this form is just going to retrieve data or whether it's going to send data to the server. And so we can, there's a get method and a post method. So we're going to use a form method dot. So when the user enters some data, is it going to be sent to the server or is it receiving the data from the server? Okay, when it's sent to the server, is it getting or posting? It's posting it. So those are the three pieces we indicate, and then we just use the C# notation for the body of a method. Okay, so I'm opening and closing it. So this is the title of that, okay, header of that web page, and then you'll set up some HTML here. So I'm just going to provide a hard return, which basically will create a new line. And then I can just say, well, I'm running out of time. So if you just want to run this now, we'll finish this up next class. But if you were to just run this, when I say run this, go to debug, start without debugging. You should at this point just be seeing this, just the title alone. Next class we'll add in the option for the user to enter in the Fibonacci term, and then how do we provide a response to it. So I'll stop here. Please come with, as I said, your exploration for your project on Team Services, as well as the user stories for buying or anything related to college basketball. Yeah. Can you go to
Lost
yeah, is there, let's see.
Get a ticket.
Okay. Just build it to see, okay. Let's try to build it.
I will. All right, we'll see.
Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure why it would not launch it. I'll send it to me as a zip file, and I'll try to see if it runs on, or even just try it if it's running on a lab machine to see.
Okay. Thanks. Okay.
So do you have any idea why this isn't? It won't like. If I start, let's say like TJ's name, like I already created this.
Okay.
It won't recognize his actual account.
Well, you've already added this. What happens if you just add?
You just do this.
Yeah. Okay. Save changes.
Okay.
Close this and see. You're saying it's not.
Yeah, like it's not recognizing his actual account.
So there is some problem with this account.
Yeah, that's what. And then if I try what's his name?
Bolaji.
Yeah, his won't recognize either. Like his is BE. We'll start typing his name. CEAD. It won't come up either.
Well, let's try mine next.
Yeah, I've tried that too.
Okay. We'll try it out next class and see what's happening.
Okay, all right.
Have you got a chance to read our project proposal? I mean, project
that's fine. That's actually good.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So do you want us to set up our project and add our group members, just like just like set up the basis, not actually do anything with it?
Yeah, just start exploring. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah. You'll have to communicate with.
Yeah, I'll text Sally that, but I did the original thing on my account, so I want to make sure.
Yeah. You'll have to just make sure that she's so set.
Okay. I'll let her know, and we'll say that.
Okay.
So I think, Chris, did you go to our new proposal?
Yes, I did.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay.